G'day members. Here we go. Just try and align that. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me, and hopefully you can shoot over any questions that you may have on the chat panel or on the Skype panel. So I'll just start with race one. Look, it's a tough sort of day tomorrow at Caulfield. The rail's out 14 metres, which is quite a long way. It doesn't go out any further at Caulfield as far as I'm aware. It was out 9 metres last time. The track was borderline heavy from around the turn to the 200 metres. It was really wet, and the last 200 was really firm. So you know, that's a little bit of an issue that they had there. Just the way the track is going to play with the rail out so far, I would think that it's highly likely it will play like it did last week at Flemington. The best ground is generally right out wide, and I would think that that's where they're going to end up. But what we'll do is we'll just take it race by race and adjust where we need to, and if we need to just bail on the meeting because it's rubbish, then we can just do that too. So obviously, even I prefer to sort of have everything ready to go, but just the way things are at the moment, you know, what we're doing isn't really conducive to being successful doing it that way. It's burnt us a little bit the last couple of weeks, so we just don't want to be in that position if we don't need to be. It's hard enough to win when all the planets align, let alone when they're against us. So just on the race one, and look, I think that it's probably a nice sort of race to get involved in here. I thought Hazard was really good last start. We were on, we marked at $7 and it was 20 to 1, and just watched the replay a few more times today, and geez, it probably should have nearly won. It definitely should have finished much closer, and it's going quite well. It resumed with a really good win at Sandown, and I thought that it was, you know, good on the class, and certainly very good on the speed, and then quite a good run last start, as we mentioned, at Caulfield over this track and distance when beaten by Politeness. You know, that's a pretty solid form reference, and Gregors is obviously coming through that race. We've got Thermal Current, so there's sort of a lot to like about that race, and I think that this horse looks to go pretty well. I think that it and Miss Promiscuity get the best runs, and they sort of the two main hopes. Just with the prices, there's not a great deal between them, and Hazard actually comes out as the top rater there. So, you know, she looks like she's going to be a good bet to start the day. And just with the other two in the market at the moment is Jessie Bell, who resumes and has always shown good talent. May need a little bit further, but, you know, these horses can improve and go quite well. And the other one's Dainstrom, who just sort of didn't really get any races, ran the suit last campaign. Most of them were off of slow tempos, and it did finish off its last campaign, beaten less than a length at Sandown by Tycoon Tara. So, you know, that's pretty good sort of form, and prior to that, you know, it had some pretty good runs, you know, behind Girl Guide and Griante and Mahara. That's all pretty good form. So its sort of challenge is being fit enough at the 1100, and if it chases Sinhala, who can be a mad leader. So I think Dainstrom, with that good first up record, I think it's well in the race. So I'll just hang around here for a minute or so and just see if there's any questions come through on the chat or on the Skype. No questions coming through, so we'll move on to the next race. It's a 2,000 metre race. Look, Star Fashion's come out on top here, members. It dominates the class and speed, and it looks to be pretty well in. It does have a bit of a tricky gate, but they're really, besides Epic Saga, there's not really a natural leader in this race. They hooked Second Bullet back from the wide gate last start when it made a fool of me at Flemington, and it's got the wide gate here again. Whether or not they go forward or back, I'm not quite sure, but it's sort of just not quite there again. But look, Star Fashion was really good last start. She probably should have just about won. We were a little bit unlucky to miss that photo. They really didn't go hard early. It was a sit sprint until Tullibah Kids come out and since won the Pakenham Cup. Her form ties back in through Suavito and some good races last campaign. And obviously she wasn't that far from Madam Gangster and Noble Protector early on this campaign. So her form's really good. The challenge is just going to be, can she sort of get herself into a decent spot from that wide gate? I think that they probably can if they jump and allow her to get over. If they hook her back, then that's what happens when you hook horses back. You have other issues. I thought that Counting Costa would run quite well here. I think his run in Adelaide was pretty good. I think he's going well. And Epic Saga, he did pretty well at his first run at 2,000 metres. Look, he's not really a 2,000 metre horse probably, but, the fact that he's probably, may get into another race where there isn't a great deal of speed, he probably is going to be a chance again. He's been up for a while, so, he's certainly no moral. However, he looks to get in quite well here. So I think that he'll go pretty well also. And the other one, Second Bullet. So they're the main ones here for us. And again, we'll just adjust as we go, depending on what the track's doing. We'll just scoot through these and just ask any questions throughout when you get to it. On to the next race, which is race 3 for the 3-year-old fillies. This is a very difficult race. I'm not sure about this race. I could probably do this race a handful of times and it'd come out different. Found it quite difficult. Mrs. President's going well. It'll lead. It has to give away a little bit of weight, and it's got the Apprentice on it that'll be out in front, which is a little bit of a concern. She can Shazam chased it down last time and got pretty close. I thought that Tears of Joy was pretty good last start. Violent Snow was okay last start. Bayun has been very poor since its first start run. What do we do with it? There's just a lot of queries there. So I not sure how much confidence I've got in the figures for this race because they could be so different. So we may just pass there. On to the next race, race 4 over 1,200 metres. And look, this is looks a nice race. Certainly, we've got some horses that get back here, like Academy Jack, Edgewood, Search Squad might have to get back a little bit from that gate. And definitely, if they're running on down the outside, those horses will be suited. If the track's racing even to fair or on pace-ish, then look, Charles in Charge is going really well. I thought that he was quite, going at Pakenham over the 1,400 where he just couldn't finish off the race. As we know, it's difficult for horses to lead all the way there, but he's going quite well. Sunday Escape was probably helped by the way the track played. They all got off the fence and it got the run through, and it's going to be up there and handy. Liberty Rock resumes the Moody runner. It's a good first up horse, and it appears like it'll just slot into a pretty good spot on the map. And the other one was Inspector. Look, this horse is going quite well. He produced a pretty high class figure last start. He's another one that saved ground along the inside, and he was only beaten 2 1/4 lengths behind Politeness. So a really big class figure for this 78. The little query with him is he has to run 1,200, and his speed figures to date, there's nothing that's really stamped him as a big time 1,200 horse. So I think if he had the rubber stamped 1,200 coming off that big run in a listed race, he'd be half the price. But the reason he isn't is, I would say, due to the fact that he doesn't have a bona fide speed figure. So look, that sort of looks the race there. I think hopefully the track is even and horses are winning on their merits, and I think clearly Charles in Charge on exposed talent looks the way to go there. On to race 5. It's a 2-year-old race, and look, this is looks like it could be a nice race. This one, this huge 2-year-old Black Vanquish. It was quite good on debut. It won quite well at Flemington down the straight over 1,200 metres, which was it's never sort of easy to do over 1,200 first up or on debut. Just a little bit too good for our Popette, or my Popette, which came out and won last week at Flemington. Really strong speed figures through the race. Black Vanquish won, and you could only probably think that it can only be improved, by that run. And it looks to map well from barrier 3, and I think that should it get even luck, it looks like it'll be very difficult to beat. The market is quite keen on number 9 here, Payroll. He probably should have won last start, but look, had he won, he still would have ran 4 or 5 lengths inferior time to Black Vanquish. So I'm sort of happy to work off the times here and lean the market that way for this race. As you can see, Payroll, if it sort of came in with a 70 here, Black Vanquish is a 67, then you can tell that it's obviously got it on the class. But obviously, look at the speed there, 117 to 100. That's a pretty big gap. So just happy to lean the way of Black Vanquish, and I think that hopefully, if the track's racing well, we'll get the money with that runner. Cool Schnitzel's going quite well, trialled well, won well on debut, 110 speed. It rates up pretty well, and that's sort of it. There's a couple of Darley runners that are always hard to beat, and they're pretty safe in the market also. On to race 6, and look, this looks a nice race for Superdo. He won well at Sandown when resuming, and it was a pretty good overall performance. The horse ran it to a pretty good speed figure. And if we look back last campaign, he's only had the 3 runs, and he's only sort of beaten less than a length by Rough Justice and Zoletto, and beaten around 3 lengths by Eloping when she was flying. So it's pretty solid sort of form. Again, this horse is likely to get back in the run, so any sign of the run-ons being well favoured here today, it certainly will be bonused. And again, it's quite dominant. If you look there, it's got the best class figure, it's got the best speed figure, and it's in on the minimum. So that's generally a pretty good sign that we're going to go quite well. Of the other horses, It's About You looks a really big price. It's got quite strong speed figures over 1,400 to a mile. This is a little bit different at 1,200, but generally, the 3-year-olds, they don't have a lot of opportunities to prove themselves over a shorter trip. So there's no doubt that this horse will need a further trip to show its absolute best. But I'm not writing off that it couldn't put in a big run here. And we've got Secret Blend, who I think can bounce back from its last run, and Durandeel, who's going quite well also, and just has to overcome a bit of a wide gate. But and Rakatiki is the other one. He comes through the race that was won by Red Bomber, and that's quite a strong class reference for this race. However, that race just looked a bit off, and he's never got over 100 on speed. So, he's had 7 runs and never got over 100. But yeah, he's certainly if you're doing your weights and measures off class and whatnot on its last run, it's in really well. I sort of wasn't sure what the market would be doing with that horse, but it's about $17 to $19 on the book, so the market's really not that keen on it. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. On to the next race, race 7. A difficult race. There's plenty of speed here. Look, this Show a Star, I thought it had enough last start at Geelong, but geez, it was a huge run. It got to the front, won easily, and ran to a speed figure of 120, which is just first class. And obviously all that form around Durasound and Fontaine Ruby ties in quite well here through a couple of runners. But Show a Star, look, it's probably just going to have to jump from the car park, and it's going to burn the turf. And, by this stage too, we'll know whether or not you can lead all the way or if you have to get back. Certainly the Weir Runner, Master of Arts, it's about equal favourite. I've got that about equal favourite with Show a Star. It was really good chasing Show a Star, and just really was never a hope with the break Show a Star had and the way the track was racing. But I think this horse has got good upside, and he does map a bit better. Although Show a Star is going to get to the front, this horse should be able to find a nice sort of spot. And then War Point, who was quite a good run last start behind Fontaine Ruby and Durasound. I thought it was going really well. It has got out to 2,000 before and has been unable to run as well at 2,000 as it has at a mile or 1,800. But it needs respect, as does All Eyes Survey, who wasn't really suited last start at Flemington in a race of little tempo. But prior to that at Terang, the horse produced really good speed rating of 117, which, as you can see, puts it well in this race. So looks quite a good race, and certainly a race that we've been able to condense down using the speed rating to probably 4 main hopes. On to race 8. A bit of a tricky race. I've still got a bit of work to do here. Just with Red Bomber, he beat Trust in August last start. An on face value that's great, but as I said, the figures just really weren't quite there for some reason. The whole race just doesn't really rate well. So, despite the fact he beat Trust in August, you've got horses like Rakatiki that are finishing within a length, a couple of lengths. So, I just wonder how much down on its best trust in August was, and I sort of think it was a long, long way, a really long way. So we'll just sort of see what happens here. But certainly it's hard to fault the horse. But whether or not he's going to come out and brain a field like this, I'm not so sure. I've used his best speed figure, which is 118, and then we've got a horse like Hosting who missed a start, 2 starts back at Flemington, worked to line really well, and then I thought he showed big improvement from Flemington to Caulfield, but he was held up. He really didn't get a crack at him, and it was quite a big run. And you sort of watch the replay, and he clearly should have finished a couple of lengths closer, and sort of had he have done that, he's up with Disposition and Sistine Demon, and that's pretty good form. So I think that that holds him in good stead to get a good run from gate 2 if that's where they're favoured. The other one here is Tadai Tondo. Look, he's a very difficult horse, this horse, to get a handle on. What I've done is really had a look at him, and he probably should have just about won last start. He's been luckless most of his campaign. 2 of his last 3 runs, he's drawn 2 of 16 and 2 of 13, and the other time was 8 of 12, and they hooked him back to last, and he was on the fence. So I think it's quite encouraging that he's drawn out here, and especially if they can run on down the outside. I cast my eye back to his last 2 runs or 3 runs at 1,400 metres. They've basically all produced a speed figure of 116, and the last 2, one of them he was beaten a lip by Hosting, and the other one he was beaten 3.7 lengths by Hucklebuck, and in that race was Smoke and Joey beaten 2.6, and he was sort of only around the length off of him. So if they're running on down the outside, I'm very bullish to get involved with this horse. No worries about that. And he appears to be quite a significant price at the moment, around $19. But we just, as we know, these tracks can burn us quickly. So we just need to really be sure of how the track's playing before we go off. And I thought that Pythagorean could run well. He's got a bit of a tricky gait. We'll have to adjust him. And Sistine Demon, look, he's going well. What do we do with him? He just gets out and bowls along in front and goes really hard. So if it's strong leaders, then certainly he'll come more into contention. So as you can see, there's from the base, there's generally a lot of work we do with the map and whatnot. And when we don't know what the map's going to do, and because of how the track's going to play, it just leaves us with in a conundrum. Really, we don't have any idea at this stage of how the track's going to play. And if the track's favouring leaders by a couple of lengths, bonus Sistine Demon, say two lengths, he's in the 460, and if it's and then we knock back Tadai Tondo, and then he's out to 26, and Sistine's into 4. So that's sort of how quick it can change. So we'll just play it by ear, and then on to the last race. And look, I thought Parolic was dead stiff last start. Just again doing the replays, he certainly looked to not really have a great deal of luck. That's the key form line, absolutely no doubt. I think the horse looks well suited here at a mile. Hopefully the track's suiting him. The other one down the bottom is Ultra Finito. He comes to a race at Bendigo, I think it was, that was won by, or Ballarat, was won by Clear Direction. And look, unfortunately, Clear Direction beat me that day. But look, it was a really strong race, and the winner, Clear Direction, has basically ran 12 lengths above standard for Ballarat over a mile. And right now, that's a rock solid run. And this horse hit the front, was only beaten a length. It had 59. The runner-up was I Am Titanium. We know he's a group performer, and I thought he was caught wide that time. He probably should have won. He's definitely a follow, but that's just going to be a very, very strong form reference. Absolutely no doubt that will be a strong form reference. And Ultra Fernando looks in well. And the other one's Pin Your Hopes. I thought that he ran quite well last start, and he ran quite well first up. He probably just hasn't had a great deal of luck, and he looks to get his chance for sure. So he was only sort of beaten 2.5 lengths last start by Amarino. Was in the same race as Parolic and Under the Louvre, and he was very wide the whole trip. And I think that he can be a sharp improver from a better draw if the track suits. So look, that's it for tonight. For the early edition, we'll have a preliminary set for you tomorrow morning, and I know it's a bit of a pain in the backside to adjust on the go, but unfortunately, when the rail's out 14 metres and half the track's been heavy and the other half's been good, we don't really have any other options. So we'll just do our best and play it by ear. I'll just hang on the line for another couple of minutes. If you've got any questions, just shoot it through on the chat pad or Skype. Okay, members, no questions have come through, so I'll knock this on the head and go and watch the footy. So if you've got any questions or anything like that, just jump on the Skype, say good day, and otherwise we'll catch you tomorrow. So thanks for your time and all the best.